So this week, Martin Luther King III marched with supporters of the United Farm Workers March for the Governor's Signature. The march was designed to press California Governor Gavin Newsom to pass AB 2183. That is legislation that would essentially give farm workers the right to vote privately and freely on their own unionization. King likened the plight of farm workers who toil for long hours and harsh, unrelenting conditions as, quote, almost as equivalent to what slavery was. It's the advocacy of marginalized communities like these farm workers that still fuel both Martin Luther King III and his wife, Andrea. And today, on the 59th anniversary of his father's I Have a Dream speech, the Kings are announcing the Drum Major Coalition aimed at lifting up Black and brown communities by investing millions of dollars in 40 groups that promote freedom, justice, and equality. Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King join me now. It's great to have both of you with us. Thank you so much for making time for us. Martin, I'd like to start with you, if I can. Talk to me about your marching with United Farm Workers and why you supported their cause.
Well, number one, we have supported the farm workers from early in its inception. My father actually wrote a telegram to Cesar Chavez in '66 when this march that we did the other day, or I was a small part of it. This was, I think, the third or fourth march of this kind. And as I said, Dad supported them. And then Mother also supported the farm workers and was somewhat close to Cesar Chavez, visited him when he broke his hunger fast. And in 2022, it's a sad commentary that our nation does not realize the value of these women and men and families that pick fruits and vegetables. And if they did not exist, none of us would eat. And so we need to find ways to make sure they are treated in the most dignified fashion. They are paid responsible wages so that they can take care of their families. So I will always stand with farm workers because as other marginalized communities, whether it's Native Americans who are certainly marginalized as well, or other Latino people, or certainly, obviously, the African American community, we are always going to be with them.
Andrea, talk to me about the Drum Major Coalition and what spurred its creation. What does it aim to do in this current climate in our country?
The Drum Major Coalition is what we feel would be a way to realize the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King, and to really firm up our democracy, which is on its knees at this point. As you all know, we led a campaign for federal voting rights. And once that was not passed this January season, it became quite clear that this needed to be a state by state battle. And we could think of no other constituency that is consistently on the ground every day fighting for protecting voting rights, fighting for peace, justice, and equity than community-based organizations. And we really feel that with this investment of $100 million over the next 4 years, we really can build political power in the Black and brown community.
Let me pick up on that point, Martin, the Black and brown communities. What is your hope for the impact the coalition will have on these communities specifically?
Well, what we know is that when these community organizers are engaged and fully funded, that they can achieve unsurmountable odds. For example, between November and January of last year in Georgia in a runoff, the first African-American United States Senator, Raphael Warnock, was elected, and the first Jewish senator from Georgia, Jon Ossoff. That was directly because of these grassroots organizations that are working at the ground, some doing voter education, some doing voter registration, some working not in Georgia so much, but on those who have to be rehabilitated, who've paid their debts to society and can't vote. As you noticed in Florida, people voted because they had voting cards, because they were told they paid their dues. And then the governor comes and says they voted illegally. And they put people who already paid their debt back in jail. That is unconscionable. But some of these groups are working on the ground that we're helping to fund. So we see We see only upside when these groups are fully funded and able to do the work that they are doing to make a difference in our nation for all people.
Martin, can I ask you about this week's big news? President Biden announcing he was canceling some student debt, and it's debt that disproportionately affects communities of color. And I was just curious to get your reaction to it. Did it go far enough?
I think it is certainly a good first step. There are always things that have to be tweaked, and maybe there needs to be some tweaking. But I'm very happy and hopeful to see this happening. Our daughter is 14, a ninth grader, and will be going to college in 4 years. Don't know how long this is going to last, but I think it's tragic that people graduate from colleges with $200,000 or $300,000 worth of debt. You may not ever be able to get out of that debt, and so this is going to help. I think has the potential to help generations yet unborn, and I'm grateful to see that the administration is doing. Of course, they made that as a commitment, a campaign commitment. So I think it's a great step.
Andrea, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. It seems, it definitely disproportionately affected people of color, but it seems that it has also galvanized Democrats and certainly women to the polls in some of the elections that we've seen, some of the primaries. Are you heartened to see this mobilization?
I would say I am heartened and disheartened at the same time. And what I mean by that is our daughter that Martin just spoke of, at 14 years of age, she has lost more rights than the day when she was born. She's lost more voting rights than were in place in 2008 when she was born. And with the overturn of Roe v. Wade a couple of months ago, she's also lost reproductive rights as a woman. So that is certainly disheartening and alarming. However, yes, I am very heartened and inspired by all of the galvanization. One of the things that we know with this coalition, once groups are fully funded, that we know that policies will change, both on a state-by-state basis as well as nationally. We also know that our culture will change because, again, these groups are every day on the ground fighting for the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. And thirdly, we know that America will once again, or perhaps for the first time, actually, be a place where all voices are heard and accounted for and protected, and where laws are passed that lift us all up and not limit us.
Yeah, let's hope for that, certainly, as we go forward for future generations. Martin Luther King III, Andrea Waters King, it is a real privilege to speak to both of you. Thank you so much for making time for us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.